Hello and welcome to Pop Culture Shark. I'm Final Monkey,
And I'm Caleb.
and this is our live stream where we talk about all kinds of pop culture. But first, how are you doing today, Caleb?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Just kind of been vibing this week. Typically, I work on a lot of music stuff with my youth band, but it is what is it? Spring break this week, and so instead of having a light band, I just say, "Hey, we're going to take a break this week." So it's a break for them, but it's also a break for me.
Yeah. So speaking of breaks, I too took a break this week. I went camping with some friends from church. I really had to get away from everything this week. I was kind of at the breaking point. Just kind of overwhelmed. Just with pop culture in general. It seemed like right after we ended the live stream, all heck broke loose last week. The
Right.
the Will Smith situation and all that, and we've just been kind of bombarded with that. And just it was kind of like, okay, enough is enough. Um, I just need a break.
Yeah, yeah,
and what?
it was insane.
Yeah, and so I don't know how much of a break I'm going to continue this week. I'm trying to just cut back on just being bombarded by everything this week.
hmm
So next week's show might be interesting because I'll just be like, yeah, I didn't really watch or do anything. So um, not the best thing to do when you do a pop culture live stream, but here we go. So let's get into a little bit of news that's not Will Smith related. Um, we got some word that the Obi-Wan Kenobi show has been delayed 2 days,
Yep.
but we will be getting 2 episodes. So instead of it premiering on a Wednesday, it will now be on a Friday. And the word or the rumor I heard was because Miss Marvel is also coming out on that Wednesday, and so they want to split them up so they're coming out on different days.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll be honest, like I kind of miss it when things were coming out on Friday. Um
Yeah, it's a much better day for stuff to come out. Wednesdays are terrible for me.
yeah, like I'm what used to happen cuz I used to watch Mandalorian. Well, I still watch the Star Wars stuff with my family.
hmm
Um and so Friday was Mandalorian Day. It's the end of the week. I go to my parents' house with my brother, and we would watch Mandalorian. And now it's like, okay, things come out on Wednesday, and so I got to avoid spoilers for 2 days because I'm still gonna do that. And so I was definitely spoiled on the Cad Bane thing in Boba Fett.
Yeah, it's difficult sometimes to avoid some spoilers, um, because some things when they happen they're just everywhere, and it's just like impossible to
Yeah.
avoid unless you watch it that day, and it annoys me. I'm the type of guy that for spoilers, I think that they should. I think a spoiler should always be a spoiler. I'm a rare case. I know.
hmm
Like if you're talking about the original Planet of the Apes, you should say spoiler. This is what the ending is. You shouldn't just blurt it out.
hmm
And that movie's 50 years old or whatever. Um, but I know some people are like, oh, movie's been out for a week. You should have already saw it. Here's the spoilers, and they just blurt them out. Um, but I think I try to be courteous. I consider there's somebody who has not seen Empire Strikes Back. We're gonna keep this a spoiler. But I know I'm kind of a rare breed these days when it comes to spoilers. So, anywho, so tonight's topic is dead franchises. So for the last 10 years, certainly longer than that, but really here in the last 10 years, we've just been bombarded by remakes of stuff from the '80s and earlier, old TV shows. They even try to bring back the Honeymooners as a movie. They're just constantly throwing these franchises back in our face, and sometimes they're just franchises that have been forgotten, buried, or we just haven't seen them in a while. And it's kind of like, well, you know what? It's probably time to bring these back. It's like I said, some of them have never been brought back. And there's, for our viewers who don't know us, there is quite a bit of age gap. There's about 18 years between us,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna recommend older stuff than what Caleb will recommend, just because of the age gap, from our childhoods and stuff. And I'm sure some of these Caleb's gonna be like, I have no clue what he's talking about.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
So I'm gonna pull up the first one. This was kind of hard for me to do because there's a lot of, I grew up in the 80s and there was a lot of new stuff in the 80s, a lot of experimental new cartoons and stuff. And a lot of them just hit and then they were gone, and which is weird because so many things from the 80s have been brought back in some form. He-Man, Thundercats pops up here and there. They'll try to bring it back about every 5-10 years. Transformers and G.I. Joe, they kind of never went away. But there's one that was kind of forgotten. And I know a lot of people bring up Mask, which I don't know if you know what Mask is.
Is that the Jim Carrey one?
No. There was, so when G.I. Joe and Transformers were coming out in the 80s, there were 4 franchises that were attached, like in a shared universe. There was G.I. Joe, Transformers, Mask, which was here. Let me pull up a picture of Mask just so you can see what it is. I was never really big into Mask. That's probably why it's not on my list. But it was a cartoon where there were just people in cars, and they all had a mask on, a helmet, and they would push a button. All of a sudden, their car, like their semi truck, would like grow wings or start flying, have missile launchers pop out and stuff. Just crazy stuff. And they were always they were fighting these bad guys or something. Like I said, I was not the biggest in the Mask. Oh shoot, that's not what I meant to do. Hold on one second as I find an image because I was not prepared to do this. But there was 4 cartoons. There was as I open a YouTube video. Okay.
So like they would like was there a reason that they wore masks? Like, did everybody wear masks?
Yeah, they would. Like I said, I was not really into this cartoon, and I'm sure if someone watches this, we're gonna get bombarded with, you don't know what Mask is, and
no, I don't.
So this was what the cartoon looked like. They all had these different helmets. Let me look up why they were concealing their identities, because now you got me wondering what the deal was.
I've never heard of this.
So a lot of my friends are like, "Oh, Mask was the greatest." Let's see, Mask is an acronym for Mobile Armored Strike Command, special task force led by Matt Tracker, who operates transforming armored vehicles in their ongoing battle against the criminal organization Venom, which stands for Vicious Evil Network of Mayhem, with an emphasis on super-powered helmets called masks, worn by the characters of both factions. So I guess it gave them like control over the vehicles.
Okay. I mean, honestly, like my favorite cartoon growing up was SWAT Cats. And I didn't put. Oh man, okay. Bring back SWAT Cats. There we go. That's
okay. I can pull it. I can add it to the list. So there were 4 cartoons that kind of shared their universe. So G.I. Joe and Transformers were the 2 big dogs, and then the 4th one is kind of forgotten by everybody, and that is a cartoon that was called Inhumanoids. So let me switch that. Let me remove that and pull this one back up. So Inhumanoids was a very dark cartoon for the 80s. Like I was probably 6 years old and watching this, and I definitely should not have been watching this, which is weird because my parents were so protective of what I could watch. But Inhumanoids was like crazy. It was like these humans that would wear like hazmat suits, and they would go fight like these 30, 40-foot tall monsters. And so the one on the left is named Despair. You can't really see him that great, but you can kind of see his rib cage, and his rib cage is like open, and he can open that rib cage up and cram people inside there and shut it and trap them in there like it's a prison. And I think if he scratches you, you will turn into a monster like him. And it was a horrifying cartoon, really dark. And that's why it got canceled very quickly. So let's see what Wikipedia says. Inhumanoids tells the stories of the scientist superhero group, the Earth Corps, as they battle a trio of subterranean monsters called the Inhumanoids with the aid of elemental beings, the Mutors. So it ran for 25 episodes. I think you can find it on YouTube. But it's really dark. But it's very, it's in the same universe, like I said, G.I. Joe Transformers. So it's a lot of the same voices, a lot of the same type of animation. And when I say these are the same universe, they were all made by the same animation company. And so what they would do is the same news reporter would appear on every cartoon. So the newspaper G.I. Joe would be on Transformers. So that's how you knew it was, this is all a shared universe. And I still have another franchise to throw on here. Okay, I'll pull it up in a minute.
We're just going to keep thinking of things.
Yeah. And that is cool. So Inhumanoids, they really need to bring this back. I would love to see a modern take on it. It's just a really, really cool show. So if you've never seen Inhumanoids, pull it up on YouTube. Especially with how popular like Cthulhu type monsters are right now and stuff, this would just fit right in.
I mean, like the concept reminds me of Pacific Rim, I guess.
Yeah. And I guess the one thing that was going against this show was the heroes were kind of boring. It's just people hazmat suits. If the heroes were cooler or had like cool vehicles, I think this one would have really took off.
So what you're saying is that they definitely should have marketed, like they should have made the toys.
There are toys.
Well, yeah, right. But like, how like they typically like they come out with like constant vehicles just because of the toys.
Right.
They probably should have, sounds like they didn't lean into it as much.
They leaned more into the monsters, and they were big toys. They were not little toys. These monsters were huge. And you remember like how big the Rancor toy was? These were like big toys.
Yeah.
And so that's probably part of it. They probably priced a lot of the kids out. They couldn't afford the toys, and it was already dark and scary, and wrong place, wrong time. But it would have been great if it would continued. So
this was an 80s show?
Yes.
Definitely sounds like it was 10 years too early. This definitely sounds like a 90s show.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. So I'm going to pull up another 80s cartoon. So speaking of vehicles, we have Jayce and the Wheeled Warriors. Have you ever heard of this one?
No.
Told you we're gonna go there today. I'm gonna teach you today.
All right. Yeah.
So, Jayce and the Wheeled Warriors. I don't think it was Hanna-Barbera. I don't think it was.
You know what? Looking at this picture, it vaguely familiar.
Okay, I'm gonna show you another picture in just a second. It very much came out after Star Wars, because you had kind of the Star Wars vibe, the hero, the Luke Skywalker archetype. The one guy was like Han. You had the little robot guy that was always whining like C-3PO. You had the wizard like Obi-Wan. It was very much that. But let me show you the bad guys. The bad guys is what's cool about the show. Let me pull them up. Okay. The bad guy vehicles were just awesome. They're like plants, but they all have like buzz saws and stuff, and they're just crazy. And so the good guys had like their vehicles were all sleek and like white and armor like looking, and then the bad guys were these plant creatures.
Okay.
So it actually had a 65 episode run. Um, so the show featured two dueling forces. The heroes are humans called the Lightning League, who drive white and silver vehicles with assorted weaponry, led by a teenager named Jayce. The villains are organic plant-based creatures called the Monster Minds, who travel via large green organic vines, which can grow in and across interstellar space and sprout seeds that grow rapidly into further monster minds. And their leader is the Saul Boss. And I think they're looking for Jayce's father was the plot. But right after the podcast or live stream, again, if you have never seen this, go pull up the theme song. It is probably it's definitely top 3 greatest cartoon theme songs. And this was developed by J. Michael Straczynski.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he made a lot of these old cartoons. He worked a lot on He-Man and a lot of this stuff. So, just a really cool cartoon that people forgot about, and it would be cool if they brought it back.
Yeah.
So there you go. There you go. So let's get to one of yours.
Yeah.
And this is one that we both really love.
Yes. So this one's definitely a little bit more recent. It is Community.
Yes.
Now, I remember whenever Community first came out, we had just moved back from New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And so just kind of a weekly thing on Thursdays for us was we would watch The Office, because The Office was a very popular show at the time, and then we'd switch over to E to watch The Suit with Joel McHale.
Yes.
And I always loved that show. Well, then one day we're watching The Office, and then it turns out that Joel McHale has this new show coming out on NBC called Community. And at first, we all loved the show, and it was like really cool and it was funny. And then it just went insane. I think it was probably around the time of the Chicken Finger Mafia, and then of course the paintball episode. And so this show went on for. Oh, by the way, if you don't know, it's a show about a study group. They start off as a Spanish study group in community college.
Mm-hmm.
And then every season is a different semester, and so they are a study group for a different class. And this show went on for about 6 seasons. Eventually, they became staff of the community college. And the whole joke in the show, which I believe it was because of a show called The Cape, which if you don't know what The Cape is, I encourage you to go look that up. That's a show that it doesn't deserve to come back, but I want people to know about it because I actually liked it. But Abed would always say that it's going to go 6 seasons in a movie. And so then the joke for Community was the show would go for 6 seasons in a movie. And the show, it was canceled at least 4 times. And it kept coming back. It just would not stay down. And so eventually it did go on for 6 seasons. And so now we're just waiting for that movie.
Right.
And I need the movie, not because I want more I want more Community, of course, but I want the joke to like come full circle. That's really what I want.
Yeah, because season 6 was okay, but it was kind of like okay, and they'd had some cast changes and stuff, and it was just kind of okay, it's ran its course,
Yeah.
But agreed, they specifically said, oh, we want a movie, and it's kind of like okay, yeah, where's the movie? And I'm hearing chatter that something's happening.
I hope so. Yeah, I was actually, so I wasn't a huge fan of, because they had to keep trying to replace Pierce, and then they had to replace Shirley and replace. They kept having to replace people.
Mhm.
I was not a fan of Buzz Hickey, who, if you don't know, that's Mike from Breaking Bad. I actually was a huge fan of Keith David's character. That is one of my favorites. Do you remember the episode where Garrett gets married in the 6th season?
It's a blur, man.
Okay,
I know I've seen them, but it is a complete blur.
So, spoilers for Community then. There's an episode where this guy who, throughout the show, he's just kind of like, he's like this Carl Weezer type character. His name's Garrett. And he gets married to this girl. And so the whole episode is they get... they go to his wedding, and then they end up ruining it, but then they have to try to fix it. But then it turns out that the girl that he's been dating is actually like his
I'm starting to remember this. Yeah.
In some way they're cousins.
Yeah. I remember this.
Because his Meemaw is her aunt or something like that.
Yeah.
And so Keith David's character is talking about how his defense mechanism against white people is encouraging white people because white people love it. And so he's going around encouraging people the whole episode in a really funny way, like, oh, now that is a container for liquid. He knows his containers and stuff like that. And so whenever it's like, oh man, like Garrett is like, this is horrible, and then Keith David just gets up, he's like, now there's a man that knows how to marry his cousin. And it's, I mean, if they do the movie, Paget Brewster, I like her. She's not necessary for me. No. I need Keith David back.
And I feel like Keith David would come back because he is on Rick and Morty all the time now. Yes. So he's still working with Jeff Harmon. So is his name Dan Harmon? Dan Harmon. Yeah. So I could definitely. I feel like this will probably happen at some point.
Yeah. I mean, this show just won't stay down.
Yeah, but Dan Harmon's notorious for starting projects and not finishing them, or just gets bored. So we'll see what happens there.
And I think this is probably the least Dan Harmon thing, though. Like a lot of the show definitely has to do with like Joel McHale as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what was what is the Spanish teacher's name?
Senor Chang.
Senor Chang. He's such a great character, great villain.
It's just a great idea too. Like in the first, I actually really liked him as the Spanish teacher because, you know, spoilers, later on you find out that he gets all of his Spanish from Sesame Street and he's not an actual teacher. I think it's hilarious that that like your Spanish teacher's Asian and they really play into that. It's really funny.
Right. It's so good. It's a good show. Part of Community's problem was everybody that was watching it online, probably illegally. Mm-hmm. and it just killed the ratings. And I think if it had came out like 10 years later when streaming was more of a thing and they could track the numbers, it would not have had the issues it had.
Yeah. I mean, like, and every time because I don't know if it's on Netflix right now, but every time it goes to Netflix, it goes straight to number one.
Yeah. It's just this and like Arrested Development, they were just very popular shows that just didn't get the ratings that they really should have gotten. So
yeah. Now Arrested Development being my favorite comedy of all time, that is one that I can say for sure does not need to come back. And
no, we're good. I actually, when it came back, I still haven't finished the final episode that first come back. Then I never watched this because it came back again after that, right? So I didn't watch the second come back. So
yeah, I watched the season 4 and I thought it was okay, and then I never watched season 5. And honestly, like those first 3 seasons are perfect to me, and that's all I need.
Right, Mr. F.
Mr. F. Mr. F.
Yeah. So Community, great show. If you've never seen it, please check it out.
Yes.
First couple episodes are, I didn't really get it. I probably missed a good chunk of season 1.
Okay.
I didn't really start watching it until Oddbed was like dressed as Batman or something for Halloween. Something was going on.
Yeah, that was like episode 7 or 8 or something like that.
Yeah, that's probably around the time I started watching it. So, good show. Good show. All right. So next on the list is maybe my favorite animated series. It is way, way up there. If it's not number 1, it's definitely top 3. It's my boys, the Gargoyles.
I knew you'd have to bring that up.
For those who don't know, during the 90s, Disney did what they called the Disney Afternoon. They would have DuckTales, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, and Tailspin. They wanted to do a new show, and it was going to be called Gargoyles. And at first, they were going to do something kind of in the style of like Gummy Bears. And then they decided, you know what? Let's do something more dramatic, like Batman the Animated Series. And this is what they came up with, was Gargoyles.
I had no idea about the Gummy Bears thing.
Yeah, the original, if you picture all of them, smaller and, we turned to stone at night and we're having adventures. And that's what it was going to be at first. Shows go through a lot of drafts.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So the creator, Greg Weisman, he has a website. So if you want to read more about how the show was created, he answers all kinds of questions. So definitely check that out.
Greg
Weisman
out is just a great, if his name is on a cartoon, it's going to be great.
Yeah, you need to watch it. If Greg Weisman's involved, you should check it out. Yeah, I think the only one I haven't watched of his is I think he was involved in like Winx Club or one of those cartoons. And I was like, yeah, okay, I don't need to watch this. But
did you watch Rebels? He was involved with Rebels.
I saw most of Rebels, yes.
Okay.
Though I probably missed most of the episodes he was on because I think he was only on season 1. But anyhow, so Gargoyles, it's about a group of gargoyles. They turn to stone at night, or not night, at day, and then at night they wake up. Basically, they're betrayed. Their whole clan is almost wiped out. Then a curse is put on them, and then they wake up 1,000 years later. And so now they're trying to understand this new world they're in, and it's just an epic cartoon. And what's cool about it is you can really just jump into any episode. But if you've seen all the episodes before, you get this amazing tapestry that you just keep building to and adding to. And you're like, why is Demona acting this way? And if you watch everything, you're like, oh, I know what's going on with Demona. I can know what's going on with Beth or Xanatos or all these characters. Great animation, great voice cast. Really good. However, the first 2 seasons are amazing. Season 3, they kind of forced Greg Weisman off the show, and it's terrible. So you can, when you get to the end of season 2, you can just stop. I mean, if you're curious about season 3, great. But really, in season 2, you can just, all right, we're done. Actually, I think Greg wrote the first episode of season 3, so maybe you can watch that. But you'll notice right away there's a quality drop. Like they changed the intro, and it is terrible.
Is it kind of like is it the kind of quality drop of Avengers from season 1 to 2, or worse than that?
I think it's worse than that.
Okay.
Yeah, and you've seen the Gargoyles intro, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty epic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you remember the Spider-Man animated series of the 90s?
Yes.
Like how when they would swing through the CGI buildings and all that?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the intro turns into something like that with weird shots of the gargoyles, like shot across buildings like that. And it's just like, what have you done?
Yeah.
Who's in control? Because this is terrible looking.
Yeah.
Gargoyles has recently had a surge of popularity with the new action figures that have come out. They're impossible to find. Believe me, I've been looking. and they're expensive figures, and you just cannot find them. So I'm hoping someone at Disney is paying attention to that, and I'm hopefully, if you've never seen it, check it out on Disney Plus. It's just a great watch. We're watching through it right now. We've got about 20 episodes left, and it's as great as I remember it. So because sometimes you look back at something, you're like, oh, I love that, and then you watch it, and you're like, oh yeah, this is not as exciting as I remember.
Honestly, there's a topic right there.
Okay, we'll add it to the list.
Yeah. Things that you loved as a kid, but you looking back on it, like, ooh,
that could get. We might do that next week. Yeah. All right, we'll kind of jot that down.
All right.
Okay, so let me again. If you've never seen Gargoyles, please check it out. It's amazing, and it also has Keith David on it. So there you go. All right, so this next one is yours,
and
it's also one of my favorite series of all time. So you go ahead and start talking about it. It's on the screen right now. I'll get the image up.
So I love Speed Racer. Actually, I think you're the one who introduced me to Speed Racer.
Probably so.
I remember like being a kid, hanging at your all's house, and just up in like, I would open a closet in like your den or something, and then up in the corner, I would see a helmet with an M on it, and I was like, oh, that's so cool. And eventually you showed me Speed Racer. It's one of my favorites. I love the Speed Racer movie with Emile Hirsch. I mean, like, I think that's genuinely one of like my favorite movies of all time. It's genuinely a great movie. Even though
let me put a little asterisk by that.
Okay.
If you've never seen the classic Speed Racer TV show, you will not like the movie.
Okay. Yeah. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on, and you're like, what's the motivation of the bad guys? This is terrible. But if you watch the old show, it's they're really basing it off the old show. Okay, yeah.
But and I grew up with Nicktoons had Speed Racer, The Next Generation, and I love that show too. And so honestly, I don't care what it is. I just need Speed Racer something.
Yeah, and so I think Speed Racer was a 50s cartoon.
Yes,
maybe 60s, but I feel like it's definitely an older cartoon. One of the first Japanese cartoons that was brought over to the States. There was a lot of redubbing when they translated it, and so people talked very fast. So that's kind of a joke, how fast they talk. But basically, it followed the Speed family,
the Racer family.
Oh, Racer family. I'm sorry. And Speed was their drove the Mach 5, this car that could do all kinds of crazy cool stuff. It could jump in the air. I think it had a buzzsaw. It had all kinds of crazy stuff.
It had a bird.
Yeah, it's really cool. And so his dad's I guess he's kind of like Pops Racer's like, yeah. And then he has a little brother named Spritle who has a pet monkey for some reason who's always hiding. They're always hiding in the trunk during these dangerous races. And it's kind of like, why don't you check the trunk? They're in there.
Right.
But the really cool thing is he's dealing with all these dangerous races, and there's there's always spies and intrigue, and someone's always trying to kill him, or there's some scheme going on. There's this other racer named Racer X who's always kind of showing up, and you don't know if he's a bad guy, a good guy, but he's always kind of saving Speed all the time.
And he's the coolest.
And the show will constantly remind you that this is secretly Speed's long lost brother Rex, who died in a car wreck, or supposedly died, and secretly he's been recruited by this secret agent group, and so he's constantly showing up, and he is one of the greatest anime characters ever.
Yeah. One thing that because even as a kid I noticed it, and it's one of my favorite things, because I'll make fun of like on the nose references. like Incredibles 2, the villain's name, spoilers, is named Evelyn Devers, like Evil Endeavors.
Okay.
And I'll make fun of that. But his name being just his name but backwards is really funny to me, and I love it. Because his name is Rex Racer, and then he just changes his name to Racer X.
I don't know if I've ever noticed that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, that's that's my favorite.
That's pretty good.
You're welcome. But no,
wow. My secret identity. Wow. Okay.
Oh man, it's one of my favorite shows. I love it, and I need something. Because like I'll make it a video game. I think Speed Racer is prime for video games, and we've only gotten 2.
It would be a really fun. I don't know if I'd make it Mario Kart-esque, but I could definitely see a.
I'm thinking like Split Second or Blur or something like that.
Cool as like a Burnout game with those types of crashes, but and then add some of the wacky stunts you can pull off, and I can see that.
That's really what this show is like. It's if it didn't have all the intrigue and the corporate espionage and all, because it's a lot of like complicated corporate espionage. It's really weird. If it didn't have all that, it would just be wacky races.
It would, and I mean, there's cars constantly flying off into the air, exploding. Like it's insane. The villains are wacky. I remember one that stands out in my head was there was a guy on a horse with a whip who hated cars because I think it killed his daughter or paralyzed his daughter or something. So he would go around whipping racers in their cars and stuff, and just craziness. It's very it had a great theme song.
Oh, of course.
A beloved cartoon.
I think one villain that stands out to me is the monster car. Do you remember that one?
Was it like the massive car?
The mammoth car. The mammoth car.
It was like huge.
Yeah.
It
was like a train.
Yeah. In a race. Yeah. This big. just crazy show. Just over the top, constantly over the top. It was great. And it's a shame that we, it's just kind of forgotten. And it'd be one of those things that's hard to bring back. We have to bring up Dexter's Laboratory was always making fun of it.
Yeah.
If you like Speed Racer, if you've never seen their episode, definitely check out the Dexter episode.
Have you seen the Fairly Odd Parents Channel Chasers, where they go inside the TV shows? They make fun of Speed Racer in that, and it's really funny.
Yeah,
because they're doing like the I am talking too fast and having to fill in all the dubs, blah blah blah. Ooh, ooh.
Right. Yeah, it's just a great show. So let's move on. So next we're going to switch to video games. Talk about a video game that I really like. This might be a little bit for your.
I'll probably at least if it's a video cartoons. I have no idea. Shining Force. Oh, I love Shining Force.
Shining Force is so good. If you like, it is a what do they call them? Real-time strategy game.
Yes.
I wish I could have found a bigger image, but there you go. So it's very similar to Fire Emblem, but for me, Fire Emblem is almost too serious. There's a little bit more fun to Shining Force. The characters are a little bit more fun. You get like werewolves on your teams and robots and phoenixes and vampires and just it's just fun. I think there were, if you don't know the Shining series, because they don't just have Shining Force, there's other Shining games and they kind of take on different genres. So there's like Shining in the Darkness, which is like a dungeon crawler. And then there's other titles in the Shining series. The Shining Force, I think, was definitely their most popular. It was their take on turn-based RPGs. And I believe there was 3 games, but Shining Force 3 was never released in the United States. I may be wrong on that. It may have just been on a Sega system I didn't have. But it's just kind of gone away. They will re-release Shining Force all the time, like on the phone or Game Boy Advance or whatever. but they just have not made any new entries. That makes me sad. It's just a great little franchise that people forget about. Just really fun. And I guess, like I said, the closest thing we have is Fire Emblem, which is great, but it's not the same.
Yeah, Fire Emblem is one of my favorites, and I love games like this. I've actually never played Shining Force myself, but I might have to pick it up because I didn't know that's the type of game it was. Final Fantasy Tactics, Fire Emblem, Advanced Wars. I love all those types of games.
So Shining Force 1 is on the Genesis Virtual Console right now on the Switch.
Okay.
So you can play, if you have that, you can play it for, I won't say free, but if you have that, you can go ahead and play it.
It's like if you have Netflix, you can watch stuff for free.
Yeah, if you pay for Netflix, you can watch it for free. But definitely a forgotten franchise. Really cool. So let's switch up back to one of yours. Go through these a little bit quicker.
Yes.
We're going to go to comic books here.
Yes. So Ultimate Spider-Man. Now, when I say Ultimate Spider-Man, it's kind of complicated. So in 2015, Secret Wars happened, and so 616 and the Ultimate Universe was kind of melded together in a sense.
So for those who know, 616 is the main Marvel universe,
right?
And then the Ultimate Universe they were like in a separate timeline universe, whatever. Started out with Peter Parker, then he died, and Miles Morales took over. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I think towards the end of the series, they revealed that Peter was still alive. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. They revealed that Peter was still alive. And then in 2017, Brian Michael Bendis came out with a miniseries called Spider-Man 2. That had to do with the Kingpin of the Ultimate Universe being in the 616 as well. And they reveal at the end that the Ultimate Universe is still intact, and that Peter Parker of the Ultimate Universe came out of it because the world needs Spider-Man, and since Miles is in the mainline universe now, that he came out of retirement and became Spider-Man again. And then he, I think at the end of Spider-Man 2, he actually joined the Ultimates.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so what I want is I just want them to go back to that. Like, I want to see Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Peter Parker adventures again, because we know he's alive and we know that he is the Spider-Man of the Ultimate Universe.
Man, Ultimate Spider-Man was such a great title. It was so good.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if this will ever happen anytime soon, since Brian Michael Bendis is not at Marvel anymore.
Yeah.
It seemed like this was one of his plans, and then when he got mad about something and left. I don't know if they'll. I mean, I'm sure if he left DC, Marvel would be like, "Oh, please come back,"
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like the Peter of the Ultimate Universe. So yeah, I'd be up for this.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I don't have a pitch. I don't know what you do with it, but I know that there's more stories to be told.
Yeah, and that's one of the titles I need to go back and read, or finish reading is Ultimate Spider-Man. I stopped reading somewhere around Ultimatum. I just never finished, and I need to.
It's understandable to stop around Ultimatum.
Yeah, Ultimatum was, if you don't know, Ultimatum was a crossover where they just killed off a lot of the characters in really dumb ways.
Yeah.
It was horrific. So let's get off on a little tangent real quick. I have been reading classic Spider-Man stories from the 60s. I finally got Spider-Man Epic Volume 3. So now I have like 1 through 7. So I have like this nice huge chunk of 150 issues or whatever of Spider-Man.
Nice.
The classic stuff to read. I got to the first appearance of Mary Jane and I almost quit for good. That is rough. Mary Jane is so annoying.
Yeah.
It's just all daddy-o, let's go groove on the oh, you're speaking my language, and it's just like, stop.
My favorite, and this is whenever I was reading through the Ditka stuff a couple of years, because I think it was around the time of the PlayStation 4 game came out. I was like, I want to go through and reread some of the Ditko stuff. There was an insult to Peter that like I still think about, and it's the funniest thing ever, where they're like, "Get out of here, Parker. This is a bowling alley, not a knitting circle."
It's God bless Stan Lee. He was he took part in so many great creations of characters, but sometimes the man could not write.
Yeah.
But he was writing like 10 titles at one time or something crazy.
Yeah.
So you can't 100% blame him, but because he was helping create something great, but geez, sometimes you're just like, okay.
I think there's only one comic book that he got right out of the gate, because Spider-Man needed some work, Iron Man needed some work. I think he only got one right instantly, and that's Daredevil. Like, you go back and you read the original Daredevil, it's just as good as it is now.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I have so many books I need to read right now. It's ridiculous. So I'm making my way through Spider-Man, and it's like a Rhino storyline. Rhino's like one of my least favorite Spider-Man villains.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like, ugh.
But you know what? I'm not a fan of Rhino either, but for some reason, every time he show up in Spectacular Spider-Man, I'd love it, because I thought he was great in that show.
Yeah. Spectacular Spider-Man is another Greg Weisman cartoon. Really
that needs to. We'll add that in there. That needs to come back too.
Yeah, let's put an asterisk on this one. Also, bring back Spectacular Spider-Man.
Unfortunately, I think that one is even less likely, because they got. Well, as soon as they announced that MCU Spider-Man cartoon, I kind of lost hope, because
I wouldn't never say never. They're doing the X-Men 90s cartoon, which is weird. That's weird.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, how we because I don't know what they're gonna do. What if they do the X-Men cartoon, but the first arc? Because remember how they used to do them in seasonal arcs and whatnot?
Yeah.
That first arc is Ease for Extinction.
Maybe.
Because they already did all the 90s. They already did all the big Claremont storylines. So all they can do is go forward. Start with Grant Morrison.
Yeah. You did see the last, what was supposed to be the last episode, where Xavier has to go live with the Shi'ar and Magneto takes over the school and all that.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it's going to kind of pick up at. So, yeah, hopefully that's going to be good. I don't know. I'm kind of annoyed with X-Men right now, but that's a whole nother modern Marvel. It's just
I mean, when are we not annoyed with X-Men? As soon as we get something nice, they take it away.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to get way off on a tangent, so let's go ahead and stop this.
I'm poking the bear.
Yeah, you are. All right, so let's remove Ultimate Spider-Man. So let's get one that I doubt you know about. You may. Who knows? This is actually a toy line that was. It had to be the 80s.
GoBots.
GoBots was. It was great. People hate it because it's kind of like the ugly stepbrother of Transformers, and I thought about including GoBots, but I think they got bought by Transformers, and so that's happening. Yeah.
Well, the only because I used to have a the blue plain GoBot, whatever. I had that as a kid, but it was under the Transformers line, so it was a while ago when they got bought out.
Yeah. This is a toy line called Monster in My Pocket.
I have heard of this.
These were similar to the Muscle toys. They were I think you would get No, they weren't a blind bag. They were like a 4-pack. You could see which ones you were getting. And someone like posted a picture of them. They're like 50 cents. I'm like, why didn't I have all these? So I guess I look at that through the lens of inflation. These were great because I learned about so many different monsters I had never heard of. I mean, they were picking obscure stuff from all around the world, and back then we didn't have the internet, so there was no way to learn about this stuff. And here's Spring-Heeled Jack, here's the Behemoth, here's the Kraken. I'm just like, oh my gosh, what are these things? And just a really cool franchise. I don't know if it would be successful in the modern day, but I just really liked I just love learning about different creatures I've just never heard of.
If I recall, I think this was like because you know how like I don't know if they do this anymore, but I know back in the day they had to have the if they had a girl thing, they had to come up with a boy equivalent and vice versa. I think this was the boy equivalent to Polly Pocket.
I think they had that other cartoon. What was that? I want to say his name was Max, but that's not right. That's going to drive me crazy. There is a boy equivalent to Polly Pocket, and I cannot think of his name. Micro something. But anyhow, this was just a neat little toy line. It didn't last very long. I think they changed it up with the second batch. They made them bigger and tried to give them multiple colors, and it lost whatever magic that first one had, where they were just solid colors and different colors.
Well, yeah, they had to be able to fit in your pocket.
Yeah, it was. I still have a couple of them. I wish I had. It's one that there's a couple of toy lines I wish I had just never lost track of, and this is definitely one of them.
Well, this one is like you're 8 years old. Like 30 years later, this thing fits in your pocket. Of course, you're gonna lose them.
Oh yeah. But it would just be cool to have some more of these. It's just so cool. They just really dark monsters. Again, it's stuff that as a kid you really you're not gonna be watching these types of movies and stuff. But then you're learning about them. You're being introduced to this whole world that's out there, and it's really cool. So let's get to one of yours. And this is one that you added while we were talking. So let me pull up the picture.
Yeah.
But SWAT Cats, I remember watching SWAT Cats. It's just been a long time.
Yes. I'm not sure that like SWAT Cats was actually of my generation. This might have been one that I watched that was on like Boomerang or something. And so SWAT Cats is super cool. If I recall, their names were Razor and T-Bone. And like for a kid's show, it got pretty serious pretty fast.
Right.
Because they were cops, or they were some sort of law enforcement. And they were framed for some crime that was committed by their arch nemesis Dark Cat, who is actually like a high-ranking government official, and so they have to fake their deaths, go into hiding, and then they become these vigilantes known as the SWAT Cats, and that's why they wear the masks, because those are their secret identities, and so they just fight crime from their Top Gun style. As I'm describing it,
yeah, I was about to say this is getting more and more ridiculous the more you describe it. It's a cool show, though. It really is.
As I'm describing it, I don't know exactly what I'm talking about, but this is what the show was.
I'm just laughing that they're in a fighter pilot or a fighter jet. They're having to wear masks in the fighter jet. It's going to go by so fast. It doesn't matter what they look like.
Right. But this is a show that I think do you remember like the resurgence of these types of shows with like, I'm sure you do, with like Thundercats and He-Man.
Yeah.
Where they went like more anime with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is one of those shows that you can definitely go more anime with.
Oh yeah.
And I remember there being a video game on the Super Nintendo. It was super cool. Actually, if I recall, so it's SWAT Cats with a K, so you know that it's extreme.
You know, it's 90s. It's, you know, after Mortal Kombat, we're
Yeah,
just gonna have a K.
yeah. And then the subtitle was SWAT Cats: The Radical Squadron.
That's right.
But yeah, I loved SWAT Cats growing up, and I need more. I didn't think about it until we brought it up here, but now that I brought it, I need to find a way to watch it like now.
There's a lot of cool cartoons like that were forgotten, and I don't know. You say you want SWAT Cats back, but I don't know if you really want SWAT Cats back because it's Hanna-Barbera, so that means Cartoon Network owns it, and we've seen what they've done with franchises recently, like Thundercats and stuff, where they have just totally destroyed it.
Yeah, they probably bring it back in that Teen Titans Go thing.
Yep. Yeah.
That's how they bring it back.
Yeah. So until the buyout goes through and things start to change at these companies, you might not want it just yet. You know,
I want SWAT Cats in the style of Mystery Incorporated.
Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. All right, so I'm gonna have one more, and this is one I just added. This is another toy line, and we were talking about the Transformers, GI Joe, and Humanoids Mask Universe. There was actually a fifth one that I forgot about. This was a toy line. I don't think they ever had a cartoon show, but this was Battle Beast. I don't know if you remember this at all.
No.
But this was kind of like Pokemon before there was Pokemon. You can kind of see they have like that little square on their chest.
Yeah.
And it's similar to the Transformers where you would touch it and a symbol would appear. So there was three groups. There's fire, wood, water. Fire beats wood beats water beats fire. And so depending on what symbol they had, you would know which one would win the fight.
Okay.
So basically, it's just, you know, these cyborg humanoid animals. They're actually part of the Transformers universe. You'll see them pop up every once in a while in the background of the comic books. But just a really cool toy line that time has forgot. I think, you know, with Pokemon being so popular and everything, why not bring this back? You know, slip it into put it in one of the Michael Bay Transformer movies just as kind of a background thing and just bring it back.
I could see it being like let's say, I mean, honestly, the movies are, I didn't see Bumblebee, but I think it takes place in the 80s, so that would be a cool like reference, like if like they were just like a kid playing with some.
Well, the next Transformer movie is Beast Wars.
Oh, is it? Then never mind.
Yeah, so I could see this, but if you're gonna set it, you know, in the past, assuming that movie's gonna be set in the past, then why not introduce these guys? You know?
Yeah.
Just another one of those neat franchises that Hasbro just kind of forgot they had, you know. And I don't even know if they still own the rights to it. You know, a lot of times they let things lapse because they, you know, don't use it. But
you know, I looked it up a little bit just because I was curious. It kind of reminds me less of Pokemon.
mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember this one. This was like this is whenever I was on my way out of the Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh! Digimon phase. And then, you know, I eventually go back into it because you always go back to your childhood.
Mm-hmm.
But this is as I was on my way out. It was a game and a show called Bakugan.
Yeah.
Where like
my kids had some of those. Those are the little cylinder, the ball things that would open up, right?
Yeah, and become like the dragon or something like that. And like we had some, and they were cool. We never knew how to play the game,
right?
But no, they were cool, and so like just a little small figure that, and I assume these things are like,
oh yeah, these are like 3 inches tall or something. They're tiny. Yeah.
That's kind of the vibe I get, is like a Bakugan.
Yeah. There might be just a little bit bigger than a monster in my pocket, but they're small. Yeah. So again, another franchise. We could have gone on and on with these franchises. Samurai Pizza Cats. There was a show, Bots Master, Megas XLR. There were just all these cartoon shows that kind of came and went very quickly that we could have talked about.
I
Lots of
remember Megas XLR.
yeah, that was a fun show. Um, there's just a lot of them that. I should have put on here Pirates of Dark Water. Oh, that's a good one. There's so many that they either ended on a cliffhanger or the story was unresolved. And it's just like, just bring it back. There's a fan base for anything, really.
Yeah.
So, and when I say bring it back the right way. There's so many wrong ways you could kill these things. So we got one left that we're going to save for last. So let me pull this off the screen. So this is actually a video game franchise.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about Castlevania.
Yeah. Now, for the past, and I'm not sure why, because typically this happens around October, but it happened a little earlier this year, I guess. I've been on a big Castlevania kick, and I hadn't noticed it before, but we have not had any new Castlevania games since Lords of Shadow 2. Now, if you don't know what Castlevania is kind of based on the story of Dracula, where the Belmont clan, using their whip known as the Vampire Killer, is eternally locked in battle with Dracula. And so each generation, they have to slay the beast. Started on the NES, but it became very popular on Sony, and it's mainly Sony and Nintendo, with a little bit of Sega thrown in there. And I love those games. Specifically, one of my favorites is Castlevania 3: Dracula's Curse. I love Rondo of Blood, Symphony of the Night, Aria of Sorrow. This is a series that spans centuries, because I think the earliest one takes place in like the 1800s, and then in the canon, I think Aria of Sorrow takes place in like 2034 or something like that. So like it goes into the future. And so, I'm sorry, go ahead. I've been talking a lot.
No, so say they're the people on Konami. I don't know if they know what they're doing these days.
Yeah.
They are just not taking advantage of a lot of the franchises they own, and I think that is a company that is kind of having an identity crisis right now. So a lot of the original creators have been ran off, so I think eventually Castlevania will come back. I don't know if it'll be anytime soon.
Yeah. Well, and especially with Metroid Dread, which honestly, Metroid Dread is probably my favorite game that's ever come out on the Switch at this point. Like I want something like that. And we have Bloodstained, and I love Bloodstained. Which if you don't know what Bloodstained is, it was the creator of, not the creator of Castlevania, but the guy who worked on like the big ones like Symphony of the Night and Aria of Sorrow. He left Konami, and he did his own thing called Bloodstained. And there are 3 Bloodstained games at this point. 2 of them are kind of heartening back to the old Castlevania. In fact, Castlevania Bloodstained Circle of the Moon, or Curse of the Moon, excuse me, Curse of the Moon, is one of my favorite games of all time, and I can speedrun that one multiple times a day. I just love that game. And then Ritual of the Night is one that is more like your Symphony of the Night, Aria of Sorrow, where like you can speed run it, you can backdash to go faster, like you just backdash and press down, and like you kind of wave dash, and so it's very much a speedrunner's game. I'm just a big fan of like the Metroidvania style games, and so if they were to bring back Castlevania, that's what I would prefer. But if they wanted to bring it back, Mega Man 9 style and just go back to the old stuff, I'd be cool with that too. I just love the atmosphere of Castlevania.
Yeah, and I played a lot of the old games on the Nintendo, but then I haven't really played much of the later games. I didn't have a PlayStation back when they were all on that. So, but yeah, it's a great franchise. Like you said, there's Metroidvania type games. They're copying this in Metroid, so it's a great series when other people are copying you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, Konami and Capcom, to a point, they really need to get their acts together with their franchises.
Yeah. Capcom is actually
Sega also.
Oh yeah, Sega. Capcom is on the rise again. They did well with Devil May Cry, Resident Evil's back too, Monster Hunter's doing great. So like Capcom is on their way. They just need to to knock Street Fighter 6 out of the park, and then I think they're golden.
But then also they need to remember they have other franchises.
Yeah.
What's the monster fighting game they have? You know what I'm talking about? The one
the monster fighting game.
It came out like around the time the X-Men vs Street Fighter stuff was. Night Stalkers. What is it?
Oh, Dark Stalkers.
Dark Stalkers. Yeah, that's a franchise that needs to come back. They have different little franchises like that they need to remember they have.
Dark Stalkers. It's got the same atmosphere as Castlevania. It's like the Castlevania fighting game. I love it.
Yeah. And then Sega needs to remember they have other franchises besides Sonic.
Yeah, honestly, I'm just glad that they're doing well with Sonic again.
Yeah, because there for a while there, we were lucky if Sega was even going to survive.
Yeah, I'm so excited for Sonic Frontiers. I have no idea what it's going to be like, but I was of the camp that loved Sonic Forces. I have a lot of fun with that game, and so just more Sonic is what I need.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, so let's move on to our final segment, everybody's favorite segment. So we're going to go on to how he made me do it. Last week, Caleb got to pick, and I'll just put it back on the screen. He chose Castlevania.
Yes. Like I said, I've been on this Castlevania kick for the past couple of weeks.
And I really wish I had not gone camping this weekend. Well, I mean, I'm glad I went, but I wish I had more time this week to go ahead and watch season 2, because I was tempted to. Because once I started watching it, it all came back to me as season 1. And just how much fun this series is. Like, once I started watching, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember what's going to happen, this, that, whatever. But just a fun series, and I know that season 1's a lot of setup, so I will probably start watching season 2 this week.
Yeah, it's definitely a pilot movie.
Yeah, because season 1 is really this is why Dracula's angry, and we're getting the team together. That's really all it is.
Yeah.
So you can definitely tell that they are setting everything up so they can build up from there. So I think it goes for 4 seasons. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. So
and did they actually finish the story at the end? Or
they did. So the first 2 seasons are just Dracula's curse, and so once they get in, but it's Dracula's curse, and so like the story wraps up at the end of season 2, but they leave a lot of like threads, and so in seasons 3 and 4, it's sort of original, but also sort of Curse of Darkness, because they bring in Isaac and Hector in season 2, and then Isaac and Hector are kind of the main characters of Curse of Darkness. And so they kind of go along with that.
Yeah, so Castlevania 3 was Dracula's Curse. That was the Nintendo game.
Yes.
Where you could play as 4 different characters. So does the 4th character ever show up? Grant or whatever his name is?
No, but in season 4, there is a Grant type character that shows up.
Okay.
But Grant does not show up.
Okay, because I was wondering where he was. Because I was like, what's there 4 of these guys? Where's number 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They basically just needed. So the reason that because honestly, the show probably for the first 2 seasons could have just been Trevor, but you got to bring in Alucard because Alucard's like the fan favorite, everyone loves him, and then you've got to bring in Sypha because Trevor and Sypha are Simon's grandparents, I think.
Okay. Oh, so this takes place before Simon.
Right. So Castlevania 3 is a prequel.
Okay.
Trevor is, for the longest time, Trevor was the first Belmont, and then they introduced Leon later on. But I think of the Belmonts, I would say Trevor's probably my favorite.
I'm a big Simon fan, but that's just because that's what I played, and
Yeah.
I watched Captain, and he was what was on there. So
yeah. Now I do believe because the 4 seasons is Alucard, Sypha, and Trevor. I know that they're not bringing back Castlevania, but they're gonna like do a sequel series. I've heard.
Okay.
But I've heard they're gonna skip Simon. They're gonna
Weird.
skip. Yeah, I get it because like the Simon, well, and they sort of do Simon's Quest in season 4. They sort of like, it's a mix of a lot of stuff, and so they basically do Simon's Quest but with Trevor. And so I get, like, first of all, you skip Simon because it was the first 2 games and there's really not much to go off of. But then you also skip Simon because they're going straight to Richter, which is Rondo of Blood. And then after Rondo of Blood is Symphony of the Night, which is the big one. And so I get why they're skipping Simon, so that way they can go straight to the 2 most popular games in the series.
Right.
But yeah, I love the show. It's so cool. What did you think about it? Because this is He Made Me Watch, and I know that you technically have seen this before, but like,
yeah, it's a good series. I'm really still Team Dracula. I think he's totally justified in what he did. I mean, maybe he's gone a little overboard, but I'm Team Dracula. Those townspeople need to die.
Yeah. Well, and that's the interesting thing that I really like about the show is the way the townspeople treat everybody. It's like they definitely deserve what they get because they treat they'll treat Alucard the same way. They treat Sypha the same way, and like they hate the Belmonts.
Yeah, they do.
And so I think it's really cool that like there's something about like the hero that saves the people that hates him that I love. I guess it's kind of like the Batman trope, I guess.
Yeah.
And that scene, that the Trevor introduction is just one of my favorites. I'm a big fan of the and it's the classic Dungeons and Dragons trope where like if you don't know where to start your campaign, just start it in a tavern. It always starts in a tavern. And so the scene where he's in the tavern and he's got to fight the guys, it's super cool. I also love and because we're specifically talking about season 1 here, I think season 1 is as bloody as it gets.
Okay, because it's pretty graphic at points.
yeah. I love the fact that like they don't pull back on what a whip can actually do.
Oh yeah, he's deadly. He's very deadly with that whip.
But yeah, like I said, I've just been on a Castlevania kick, so I wanted an excuse to talk about it, and so I got to talk about it twice today.
Awesome. So if you haven't seen Castlevania, it is very much TVMA at points.
Yes.
So not for small children, but I would definitely give it a look if you like vampires, if you like the video game series. It's on Netflix, so go check it out. So this week I get to choose what we're going to watch, and I think I'm going to finally pull the trigger. I
Let's
think it's
go.
Gargoyles time.
Let's go. So the first 5 episodes.
I think
then?
I'm just gonna. Yeah, I'm gonna have you watch the first 5 episodes. They're not, the first 5 episodes are not my the best. I mean, it's a very compelling story, but the show gets so much better from here on.
Yeah, it's a nice introduction.
The robot gargoyles that Xanatos has, the Steel clan, they're like my least favorite villains.
Yeah.
So other than that, though, it's still a really fun first 5 parts, especially that stuff in the Middle Ages. All that's really compelling. And they're just kind of setting up the world with this. So again, it's on Disney Plus. If you've never seen Gargoyles, absolutely check it out. It is great. Me and my children have been watching through it. We got about 20 episodes left right now. We're having a blast watching through Gargoyles. So, awesome show. So we'll get Caleb's reactions to the first 5 of Gargoyles. You've seen some of the series, but not
right.
just kind of here or there.
Right. I've got like a vague memory, and honestly, some of those memories may be mixed in with the TMNT animated movie.
Right.
I feel like that those are similar in tone.
There's a lot of cartoons that are kind of similar animation styles or whatever from that era, so it's easy to get things mixed up in your from 20 years ago or whatever. And so I think what we'll do is I'll show you the first 5, and then if you want to continue on your own, you can. If not, maybe I'll come back in another month or 2 and say, okay, here's 5 more. Then I'll kind of pick some episodes to jump to. So
yeah,
cool. But I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the first 5. Again, just awesome show. Really excited to get a fresh set of eyes on Gargoyles and see.
Yeah.
So that's our show. What we say the next week would be franchises you used to love as a kid, and now you're kind of like, eh.
Yeah. Or like maybe we wish we hadn't gone back to, so we could keep that like the whimsy in our heads.
Okay, that might be the topic, unless we come with something crazier, or in case Will Smith slaps somebody else or something else happens. We'll see. That's our maybe topic for next week. But until then, I hope you've enjoyed this show. I've been Final Monkey,
and I'm Caleb,
and we hope you'll join us next week on Pop Culture Shark at 6:00 Eastern right here on YouTube. We will talk to you then. Bye.
See ya.